Welcome to a fine gaming experience, everyone. Bricks here with the usual co-host.
Hey, I managed to show up for another episode. I'm actually very excited for this one because we're going to be using one of my favorite weapons, one of the ones I started with, and one of the ones I use quite consistently right now in our play.
And we'll be fighting one of my favorite monsters. Even Fiona's excited.
That's a lot of excitement.
Maybe it's the toads. She might have been licking them before she started.
I think licking a paratoad would probably give her less ability to move. Maybe the nitro toads, though.
Yeah, licking nitro toads, I'm sure, gives you something.
Spastic energy.
And because we did that mission last time, we can speak Gastodonese. So yep, we can mount another creature for the region there. More news.
Now is the time for lots of new things. Remember to come back and talk to your little buddy between any of the missions to get new palicos and befriend the environmental cats, because otherwise you're going to sit there clicking for a while.
It's worth it, though. We got the ability to just zip around riding a monster. I don't show that off this time, but next time you'll see me riding one around.
Hey.
A pain in the astelos.
Mm-hmm.
These are pretty basic deliveries. I love how many people are like, I could go outside 5 meters and pick a plant, but you can do this for me, right?
Always worth doing them, too. I cannot tell you how useful it is to go into a fight with the right food buffs. And they are big, big buffs. Worth getting every single ingredient you can.
You're pretty late game yourself and are missing a few components in the canteen yourself, and every now and then you'll have one of those times where you can't get the full buff you actually want, eh?
It's annoying because the way it works, and at least this is how you've explained it to me, Bricks, is that it actually gives you a number of, we'll say, ingredients that are boosted, but the ingredients that are boosted may be ones you don't have unlocked. So if you have the entire spread of them unlocked, you will get every option and you can put together a great set of different components with the right buffs you need.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, because I'm missing a lot of ingredients in certain sets, I'll go into a set and I'll be like, why do I only have 2 ingredients that are preferred right now? And you'll have something like 6, and I'm like, oh, it's because I'm missing all these. Lots of blue question marks. The blue question marks are special. They're all for special quests that were added after the completion of the game. Those are all DLC quests, and usually they'll be under special events. And when you go to your screen to set up your hunt and you go to the mission board or talk to the handler, you'll see a new category added called special assignments. And in those, that's where they'll appear.
There we go. We got a nice little extra print, and all the other little running around we did. We got another mantle.
Very important.
These can really help with the fights coming up. Any of the elemental mantles will really help against an elder dragon that uses them. We're going to be using that fire one in 2 more episodes.
And I know exactly what fight that's going to be. One of my favorites. I really, it's a toss-up between the monster you're going to fight in this one and the monster you're going to fight with that fire mantle, for which is my favorite elder dragon.
I really love this one, especially for the appearance, but the way it uses the environment for its attacks and how it lives, the whole 9 yards. Like, this is interesting how the effluvium reacts with this elder dragon, as we'll see.
Yeah, there's some really annoying things about this monster that can be easily mitigated by the right armor set. This is, I feel, the first time in the game where your armor makes a massive difference. Not just the defense, but the skills that are on it.
And sadly, I do not have enough gems or the right armor that I have made myself immune to the effluvium or miasma.
Yeah, that could be a pain. That's going to be a lot of actually stuff that you get from this monster itself. And other monsters in the Vale, I believe the Gyros, the Great Gyros actually has a lot of parts you need. Specifically, the Belt of the Great Gyros gives you a special resistance, which is very helpful down in the Rotten Vale.
These 3 Elder Dragons we'll be fighting really prove the point that certain monsters you kill will give you armor that helps you kill more of them. These ones will give you great resistances against their element for the area, and even the skills based around them, I find, really helps fight that type.
This armor set, I'm actually going to talk about a little bit. Are you going to be showing it after the fight?
Of course.
Okay, it's a very good armor set, but it does have a caveat, and I'm going to mention it now in case I forget to mention it later. Unfortunately, it is a wonderful ability that you should not get used to. It's a great set for defense, and it provides you something that nothing else in the game provides you with until you start getting jewels and stuff later on. But you really shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, because you're losing out on a lot of damage and you're losing out on a lot of other great abilities just to have this one defensive ability. Demon Tater Brew.
Yep. She made something demonic, and it was beer. Now, we have the main 3 categories so far for food that give you an attack boost, a defense boost, or an elemental boost. All the beverages, however, give you bonuses for carving or for the hunt itself. They're more supplementary ones if you know you're already doing good.
Mm-hmm. And they can be very good for any times you want to go out on expedition or stay afterwards and do some extra stuff. Remember, 2 expeditions. I know it seems like just silly to run around hammering out points and collecting ores and making sure you pick up all the different things you find in the ground, but it really will help you in the long run. You'll get to a point where you'll realize, I'm running out of materials, and your other choices are going to be either hunt for them or go to the Elder Melder and pay a lot more than you probably want to.
Plus, certain people only show up during expeditions instead of regular missions. You won't see, for example, the fisherman or the Linian researcher on the map in a regular investigation, usually.
She's actually talking about the creature here, the Valhazak.
Mm-hmm.
And she is directly blaming it for the effluvium and the way the effluvium spreads down there. This creature, any Elder Dragon, is very invariably tied to its element. They are almost like walking acts of nature.
And they talk a lot about how Elder Dragons can affect the environment around them. Valhazak is the embodiment of that. Time for a new bow.
Oh yeah, but definitely need to go up with the iron bow, that's for sure.
I hope I do a decent job here. I'm not that used to using the bow, and especially the new move they added with Iceborne here. But I went for a nice fire bow. It's got an interesting mix. I'm not going to be using poison against the boss here, sadly. But good damage, good fire element, which is the weakness, and affinity.
This is actually an excellent bow. One thing about bows is you're going to want to think of them much like you think of Sword and Shield and the dual blades. They are extremely good with element, and there are a few bows that do good normal damage, but really bow is meant to be an elemental weapon. You can even see right there, the fire element is actually even higher than the attack power on it. So anything that gives you critical to your elemental attacks or boosts your elemental attacks, you're going to want to invest in those kind of skills, and you're going to want to make sure you have good bow skills. Another thing about the bow is Constitution is a lifesaver. You are dodging, you're shooting, and unlike the other guns that you use, the bow has a special ability of not needing to use ammo. Instead, you're basically using your stamina as the expenditure, which means you need to keep as much as possible in reserve.
You also have your coatings that you can use that kind of are like ammo in a way, but...
They are, that's true. You're basically always using normal shots outside of your coatings.
But it was more like a possible match, not a definite ID.
Ooh, you're taking this seriously.
Oh yeah. If you see me taking mega potions right off the bat, you know I'm taking it seriously.
Those are some wonderful buffs that add on top of your normal buffs you've got as well, which are great to have.
I've kind of developed a saying, too, as we've been playing through the game. no matter how powerful we are, always respect that an Elder Dragon is an Elder Dragon. There's been more than a few times where I thought, I'm really powerful, I can just whoop so-and-so, and then they show me I am wrong.
Yeah. We've actually had one fight where an Elder Dragon was absolutely wrecking us that really shouldn't have. It was a much lower rank than we were, but it started to do some massive damage, and it wasn't a fun fight. And then right afterwards, we respected an Elder Dragon, picked 2 of our best weapons, buffed up before we fought it. We just trashed it. It was embarrassing, but it was embarrassing because we took it seriously and went in with that intention of, this is a dangerous creature. We will both respect it and destroy it. Isn't that just the theme of Monster Hunter? We will respect and destroy this.
Pretty much. Just a big old pile of bones.
Mm-hmm.
And flesh chunks falling from the ceiling. If nothing else, aren't you happy I'm not wearing the cat head now?
I actually really like this set. So this is very much a Basil set, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Do like the forehead gem.
There's something wrong with those guys.
What do you mean? The glassy dead stare wasn't a clue?
Probably my favorite introduction to any monster in this game.
If you recall my episode 0, I ended it with a part from this introduction because it's such a good one.
Look at those messed up talons.
Mm-hmm. And Val Hazak not only creates the effluvium in the area, it actually feeds off it and can use it as a full-on weapon. It's basically, if you're used to good old Dungeons and Dragons, think of this as its primary breath weapon. Just look at that smile.
He's so pretty.
The good old alien double jaw.
If you actually look very closely, it's like the jaw is disconnected from itself on the bottom and has grown extra teeth. I love the design. Now, Val's going to do a lot of that rearing up and attacking. You're going to watch for this shot here. This is very important. If you get hit with that... Oh, you getting close. If you get hit with that, we'll call it it's a breath weapon. It will almost one-shot you, and it does a huge amount of effluvium damage. Always get to the side of the head. And Insect Glaive users, watch it because Val can continue shooting upwards.
Val's pretty dangerous, but also pretty predictable. It's a very good one to start off with fighting, I find.
Mm-hmm.
And the armor set you get from it, as we pointed out, is interesting, but very useful.
Very useful. Now, the use of the Dragon Piercer here, some very excellent decisions on that, but the one thing about the Dragon Piercer that's hard is it hates vertical distance. Shooting uphill or downhill, very often, I will end up missing 3 or 4 shots just because of the way the arrows position.
And you were mentioning how these weapons are very elemental.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not using the right element against your opponent, you will notice how much less damage you're taking, or doing, I should say.
See, the big thing about the bow, especially when we get to Iceborne, is that its damage by itself is pretty abysmal. You're going to look at the numbers and you're like, this is the worst weapon in the game. But keep in mind that every time you fire this bow, you're actually hitting multiple times. And as long as you respect the true range of the weapon, you should be fine. Oof.
I was trying to line up a shot there, but I'm like, I need to dodge. And weak points for this monster, you got the tail, the wings, the face, the forearms. But the face is really hard to hit overall on this guy.
Especially with a ranged weapon like this, where you don't want to be in front for the bites because of your lesser physical defense.
Even with weapons like the hammer that has an uppercut, I find can be a little annoying to hit the face, just because she has it upwards a lot of the time, and she rears up does a lot of attacks that, like you said, hit the front arc. It's just very difficult in various reasons.
I actually recommend to a lot of people, do not fight Valhazak at a long range. Make sure you're nice and close. And for that, the close range coating on the bow is an infinite coating you can do. Just increases your damage. All it does is it increases your damage and changes your optimum range for the weapon to be much closer to the enemy. And that's useful for Valhazak because you want to trigger the breath weapon. Nice. You want to trigger the breath weapon, but you also want to make sure you're close enough to be able to dodge it so you can capitalize on it.
The nice thing is she likes doing those long roars to set up the move.
And it doesn't shoot through the environment, which is great.
Yep. I use the environment around me here to actually dodge that one, which was nice, but she has a lot of minions. Ooh, that was close.
Yeah, I saw that Zell right over you. I'm like, oh, you're either going to roll into that or roll right through it.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm using this gut set against her is because, well, him I should say, is because you never know when you're going to get hit with some deadly attack, and guts can possibly save my life.
Yeah, if either of us say her, we apologize. Valhazak has always seemed like the armor set is very... We thought very feminine in style, and so I've always kind of thought of Valhazak as a female dragon, but apparently is male, so we will try to appropriately mention that.
It's not like we can lift up the tail and...
Would you want to?
No, I don't think I really want to be studying dragon dongs, I'm sorry.
You know there are people who are part of the research commission who that is their absolute job.
Yeah, everyone has a fetish. Now here's the grapple attack with the bow, and you can follow it up with an air attack.
And those air attacks are amazing. For those of you who have mastered the bow, I highly recommend you make sure you learn how to do that aerial attack. You can actually do it while charging your bow and dashing up against any climbable resource. So a lot of the things that are like the combs on the wall or the kind of ridges and stuff like that in certain levels, if you dash into those, or the nets, that also works. If you dash into those, you'll fire that shotgun-style bow shot, and it does a ton of damage for practically no charge. It's very good.
I do find it a little interesting that Vol doesn't leave her nest the same way you do.
Ah, excellent job.
Thank you.
You can see Brix baited that directly into the area where Vol was, and shooting through the wings here should do some decent damage.
Now right here's the new Iceborne move. You slam your ammo into the bowgun and do a close-range scatter shot with it.
And it carries the element of whatever you're using, so scatter nuts do a ton, but even just with stones, it does a lot of damage.
Now you might notice Vol sometimes too, like in the previous area, you might have noticed she was sucking the effluvium out from monsters around her. That's basically her charging up the attack for extra damage, and wahaha!
Good, Superman. That has an amazing amount of iframes through it. That's probably, you basically count as being down while you're doing it. To those of you who have a monster who's about to attack and do its super attack, if you're on the ground, just stay there. It's the safest place to be.
Mastering when to do your Superman is a skill you surprisingly have to learn a lot in this game.
Yeah, until you get unless you're using something like a lance with guard up, yeah, you pretty much need to do that against, especially some of these very nasty, oh, unfortunately that one didn't hit. These very nasty elders have attacks that you just really can't do anything about unless you are able to dodge.
Again, though, that's why Vol is kind of a great intro Elder Dragon to take on. She has slow, multiple attacks, all going forward. She does have a tail swipe, but almost all of her attacks have a long setup. It's one of the easiest ones to start learning how to read. Sadly, my close range coding there just screwed up those connections.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh, I thought I was going to fire off there.
Yelling at earlier versions of yourself. You should have taken this shot.
Yep. Hindsight, all that stuff.
Now, because Val's kind of a very snake-like monster, it's very hard to shoot a tail-to-jaw shot or jaw-to-tail shot. But when Val's knocked down, try to kind of shoot diagonally if you want to get as much as possible locked up in that bow shot.
This is one of the more annoying attacks right there, just breathing in front of her in a huge cloud where you just have to run away.
Oh, great job. I will say you're getting lucky a lot here, but you're also doing great things to stun the monster. By that piercing shot just does so much. Dragon Piercer is amazing. There's actually 3 good ways to play the bow, and there's actually a build that's all about drawing your weapon off your back, so you get draw critical and draw attack up, and immediately once you hit the 3rd level of your charge, firing off your Dragon Piercer to do damage. I have seen that one, that's basically for speed clears. I've seen that one been used to clear monsters like this one in maybe 2 minutes. It's crazy.
It's hard to see here too, but Mega Man is using the Molotovs. It's just pretty much like I said before, a pure damage one. He'll be throwing little bombs at him. Won't be doing too much damage, but next episode I'll have it charged up a lot more. Oof.
Yeah, Val's face is a spear. You need to dodge that attack because it will go right through you.
You have to be very careful with your health too. Not only will it possibly kill you from a big hit, especially the breath weapon, the miasma can kick in, and then your health is halved.
It's going to be very nasty right after you've taken a big hit like that, because even if you heal up, you're not going to do much.
I do at least have some resistance against it. Not a lot, but I do have some here.
I will actually say one of the pro moves you did is the second you got up, rather than go ahead and try to heal just because you might have a low effluvium or healing takes longer, you instead put on your Vit Mantle, which means you could take a big hit and not die no matter what.
I really should have thrown it on earlier, but oops.
You get busy with the bow. You forget to do things.
Gotta be careful not to stand in that acid.
For those of you using the bow for the first time, try not to use the rocks at all if possible. They were very good originally, but they just don't have the same potency that they used to. Unfortunately, the KO damage they do is abysmal, and so doing them is nice, but it can interrupt your teammates, and the other problem with it is it breaks your combo, so you can't just continue your shots. Once you fire off the rocks, you have to sort of stop for a second and start setting up your charges again.
I do find the Dragon Piercers a little bit more annoying when we're fighting sometimes, if you have it lined up poorly, but...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dragon Piercers will knock around your teammates too, so you got to be careful with that. And unfortunately, I am a very selfish bow user. One thing I actually will talk about, we're not talking about it mainly, but Rise has actually gotten rid of the rocks and has replaced them with a buff that you can actually throw on party members, which I think is great. So instead of annoying people, you actually have a preferred attack you can do to heal people up.
And wounded already.
Wow. This is another case of using the right weapon, and honestly, your bow play was quite good in this. There were a couple times where I thought you could have done something different, but your dodging was so on point at this, I can't say anything bad about your play.
Thank you. Now, one thing we should talk about Elder Dragons and whatnot is Elder Seal. Almost all the time, they will drop Dragon Ammo, which has the natural ability to Dragon Seal on it. And that will basically prevent a lot of the big attacks some of the Elder Dragons will do. So if we hit Val in the head with a lot of Dragon Seal attacks, it probably won't be doing its breath weapon very often.
What it actually affects is the aura that Val has around it. Val gets this aura of miasma when you stand close to it, just does damage to you. It knocks that aura off it, and yes, you're right. Some of its breath attacks, it'll just stop doing when Elder Seal is in effect.
It's a very handy one against some monsters, but some you want to let them just keep doing their slow attacks. It's also some of the more dangerous ones, so it's a trade-off.
Elder Seal is not wanted on some Elder Dragons, but in most cases, it's an excellent thing to pack on your weapon. Also, most Elders are weak against dragon damage, and dragon damage is part and parcel with anything that has Elder Seal on it.
If you don't know what to take and you're fighting an Elder Dragon, take a dragon weapon.
It's usually not the best damage, but it is pretty handy, and that Elder Seal's like a nice little extra bonus you get. I will say Val is so ridiculously weak to fire that a fire weapon feels like almost like you're cheating sometimes. Like, you can see Brix is not like the best bow user, but is pretty competent, knows the game, knows how to dodge, and because of weapon choice, which is, again, your style of play, he's had I wouldn't say an easy time, but we'll say a ideal time against Val Hazak.
If I had gone for a really quick weapon like the dual blades again, I would be dodging all over the place, like, probably would have been a little quicker and more efficient, but I do like taking ranged weapons against Val, just for hitting that annoying head.
The reason the head is so important to hit is, unfortunately, Val having some of the coolest gear in the game, the part that you need for most of that gear is the Fang, and the Fang is so hard to get.
Right there I did the shotgun blast, and it's really good for knocking him over. I'm amazed how many times you do that shotgun blast and the creature just falls over immediately.
Yeah, that was an excellent Dragon Piercer. Close range ammo right to the face, boom. Well, honestly, I'm a little terrified of if you ever start playing bow with me. We may want to do that. You may want to pick that up and start killing things with me and just annoying it by dashing around.
Well, bow was the very first weapon I picked up, I believe. It was an interesting choice, and normally when you and I play games, we split up like the cast of characters if we're playing a fighting game, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to do that with the weapons in the game, but you picked up the bow after a while. I set it down because I didn't like the damage of it, but you showed me it can do insane damage with the right armor and skills.
Yeah, it is very much a skill-heavy set. I actually have a specific set just for my elemental damage, giving me huge elemental crits. On top of that, I also have a specific gem that allows me to charge my bow to a higher level, and I'm hitting 50 to 60 on a lot of my crit shots, which is, per shot, 3 shots out there as a lot of damage. But I will say bow hurts my hands. it's a lot of holding down buttons. It's not as, you don't get to rest your thumbs because you're always charging shots. Would you get anything good?
Nope.
Wow. No, you didn't. That money's good, though.
Yes. One thing I'm waiting for is the special quest I can do there to get more decorations.
Yeah, there's some cool decoration quests. I'm thinking it's that early monster that we're talking about. One of your favorites? Oh, yeah.
And I haven't been showing off the skills for the most part. I've been slapping on the armor sets. You'll be seeing me do that a little bit more later on. The early sets of armor don't let me particularly craft specific armor sets like I should have against certain creatures, but later on I will have to have specific resistances to take on certain creatures.
I was just talking about the set that I use, and the set that I use in Iceborne for like top level play is a critical element set. So the Rathlo set is an amazing set for bow users. Unfortunately, it does have a lot of fire attack boosts, but weakness exploit is such a huge bonus.
And the attack boosts, even little attack bonuses to your weapon, when it does so little, can add a lot in the end.
For those curious, the set I'm using is a specific set given for the second set of missions having to do with Universal Studios Japan. It's a very classic archer set. It's very cool looking.
And the Mind's Eye Ballistic is so good for your bow.
It is, yeah. Oh, it's an excellent bow set. The Rathlo set is meant for bow. The only problem, like I said, is the fire attack is just, well, I mean, if you're using an ice bow, it's kind of useless, but you take what you can get. And until you can find another set that has something to boost your elemental damage, it is the best option. Normally, the reason critical element is so important is your elements can't crit. So if you have a bow that does 150 damage, and then adds in an additional 350 fire damage, that 150 can crit. That 350 fire damage just stays at it as it is. So as soon as you put that crit boost on there, oof, it is devastating.
It's also a good reason to pay attention to the difference between alpha and beta sets, because a lot of the beta ones didn't have the fire attack there, but gave you extra gem slots.
And those gem slots you could slot in whatever you wanted, ice attack or water or whatever.
Exactly. And yes, I do love the look of this one, especially the male. Very Dark Knight.
Especially if you color it up. Battle ball gown again. That's actually a really cool looking, like, male gown.
I do like the color set on this one. And again, almost all the metal-based sets are very defensive. This one gives you a lot of good skills, though, if you want, like the handicraft, the speed sharpening. Iron Skin, I do not find that handy. It prevents defense down, but a lot of early monsters don't use it.
Yeah, most monsters actually don't use defense down. There are a few nasty ones later on that do, though. But yeah, it is a nice set. It's actually quite a good set. If you're looking for something that's a little more of like a traditional armor set, I highly, highly recommend it. And the stats on it are great. Handicraft's excellent. Just remember, handicraft is amazing on anything that has sharpness. If you are a ranged weapon user, it does nothing for you.
And some of the sets that are really good with their skills have really big elemental weaknesses. Usually stuff like that that's kind of average doesn't have any glaring weaknesses. I do like this bone set over the original. That mask is just
yeah, the berserker helmet with the giant like minotaur-esque mane. That's a really cool set.
And good too. It's not the best one for this point, but you can definitely see some people using it. The female gets those interesting horns though.
It also gets the really interesting body tattoos.
Yes. And the skills are interesting.
I'm trying to make sense of it right now. Mushroom-mancer is a great skill, actually. I feel like this would be a good bow set as well. Bow can be a very good support weapon. You're staying back and you can run up to your party and heal them. Attack boost is nice. Stamina surge is good. I mean, it's got some nice stuff on it. It's just a little spread out. I like my sets to have a focus, like a point to them. You will find a lot of armor sets that are like good for 1 or 2 weapon types, and that sometimes means that there's skills on there that are not that useful to you.
I find it funny the beta got rid of all the tattoos you liked. But some armor sets too, like, for example, I'm using the basil, so I want 3 pieces of that to get the guts.
Mm-hmm.
But something like the dober might be good to fill in those missing pieces.
Such a cool looking set. You want to be a necromancer? There's your necromancer.
And this is from those tickets we were getting from going out on our safari.
Mm-hmm.
We showed off the Palico version, but I do love that shoulder piece you get.
Keep in mind, it's got some really horrible stats against certain defenses. And you're looking at like a -10 Thunder and a -20 on Dragon. But it does have really good defenses against the more common elements like fire, water, and ice.
A little surprising it doesn't have lower fire, but the skills are interesting on it, though.
It has Resuscitate and Fortify, which are actually 2 single-rank skills. Very, very handy to have on things, and you could just take the helmet or the chest piece and get that out of it. 2 levels of handicraft is pretty nice, too. That is very, very nice, especially if you get a weapon with really, like a really high level of sharpness, like a white sharpness, and you want to extend that. That's absolutely great to keep.
And Fortify is really good. Getting the attack boost, especially for stuff like projectile weapons that get a huge boost off an attack raise, will appreciate dying. I've seen speed runs against certain monsters take advantage of dying just to get the attack boost and come back at a certain time.
Yep. Here it is. You'll notice it's got a new color on it, too. Now, I'm not actually a big fan of the male set on this one. I think it's pretty cool looking, but the beta set is gorgeous.
Yeah, the face mask. I don't know why it looks so much better without the robe, but I don't know. That's something you'd see in Final Fantasy.
It is actually kind of Final Fantasy-esque. Also, if you notice, the lights on it actually glow.
Mm-hmm.
I love the set for women. It is so cool looking.
And this is, like I said, a really, really good Elder Dragon set for starting off. You get Dragon Attack for helping you take down more Elder Dragons. You get Recovery Speed to help you just stay alive.
And this Recovery Speed is special.
Yes, as we see there, it's got the Super Recovery skill and lots of Refluvia resistance, but the Super Recovery, right here.
It sounds strange, but this is essentially full regeneration. Your health will continue to heal. You do not need potions, you do not need anything. It will just continue to heal you straight through.
and I believe the skills on the armor set give you a full recovery boost on it, so you will heal very fast.
Yeah, it is a great set, and funny enough, like we said before, it's a great set to fight Valhazak with, because that effluvium damage you're constantly taking will just get erased by the healing. However, you can still get your HP cut in half, so watch for that.
Don't you like the little flower hat?
Yeah, I like the little. It's like a cloche hat for like a funeral.
And our good old Palico set.
Little Death Knight. Yeah.
A little skull on it too. Strip every fishy morsel from their flesh. Just a little horror working beside you there.
Hey, I've got some pretty freaky looking Palicos throughout this game.
Oh, there's some very, very neat Palico armors you can build. But next time, we got another Elder Dragon to take on.
Unfortunately, that's your most hated, isn't it?
It is one of the most annoying Elder Dragons. It's not difficult, it's just annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope you join me for that next time, and take care all.